And hey, one last little adjustment there. How are you? Okay. He says we're good. Oh, you know what I don't have? I don't have that light on the TV, light over the TV on there. If you turn that on, that'll help. Okay, I got plenty of light. Yep, that worked. How you doing? Okay, got to adjust the glasses for glare. I first wanted to just have a moment with you, just a calm little moment, because it's such a serious subject, and we're like just calmly going to talk about hell and Hades, and you know, 20 years, 40 years ago, you had to say HE double toothpicks or HE double hockey sticks or something like that. Ah, a little bit of the hot stuff there. Let's just calmly enjoy ourselves. Take a breath. Yeah. That's my little towel. I keep the towel wrapped around my neck. Keeps me from catching a chill. Here in the RV, the temperature can change quite a bit. And so all is well in the world. I always hear people talking about, what hell is and what, and then there's hell and then there's Hades and how important, is hell in the Bible and in where people are living, working, what they're doing. And, this video can be for people of information that about heaven and hell. I've just have watched several videos on the difference between heaven and hell. Each one of them had a good point, and each one of them missed the point. I guess I was wrong about that, wasn't I?
Okay.
So the plan tonight is kind of different. I want you to have an understanding of heaven and hell that you haven't had before. I want you to understand heaven and hell, or not heaven and hell, Hades and hell, a little bit differently, because Hades and hell are two different places. And the Bible calls both of them hell at one point, and the name is interchangeable, so there's a lot of confusion about it when it comes to heaven and hell, Hades and hell. So first of all, it's not our concern as Christians about which one is which when it comes to doctrine or anything, because hey, we're not going. Someone wanted to give me the directions to an airport that I wasn't going to, and I said, no, that's okay. I need the directions to a different airport. And there's just no point. I'm not going to give you directions to hell. I'm not going to give you, the hell and brimstone. I'm going to just give you some facts here, and some are biblical and some are common sense. So, and don't forget, we have a giveaway tonight. And by the looks of it, it may just be the one person that shows up that was here last week that gets it. I have not sent out any feelers or anything, and I'm usually on a thing called StreamYard, but we're not using StreamYard now. So I'm trying to get my glasses just right so they don't reflect and enough light to see me without too much trouble. All right, there you go. All right, so I'm talking to you. We're sitting right across the table from one another. And you're watching this because you have a curiosity about the difference between Hades and hell. You have a desire to know, even if it's just to tell people or to have a better understanding for yourself about the difference between Hades and hell. And of the opinions and people that I have heard teaching on this, one of the more important ones that I heard was you can compare them by one is temporary, the other is permanent. Okay? When we talk about a certain times when it's called hell, it's not really hell. There is hell and there is Hades, and their words and names have been interchanged by translators and by teachers. And, everybody's well-meaning. Let's not say one person over another had an agenda to change people's minds. It's just that in a culture where the word Hades doesn't have much meaning, you will tend to find people translating the words hell more often. Whereas in other parts of the world where Hades is a much stronger definition for destruction, they'll use Hades instead of the word hell in their translations of the Bible, because they're trying to reach people. They're trying to make a difference, and so that's why that happens. Now, first thing you need to know is that hell isn't even mentioned in the Bible until Deuteronomy. Isn't that interesting? Why isn't hell mentioned as part of the creation 7 days? Why didn't God create this, that, and the other thing, and hell? I have one idea on that, and that is that death did not exist in the Garden of Eden, but it was known, because God said, if you eat of this tree, surely you shall die. So death was an understood thing. It was known, but death wasn't there, because it says through one man's sin, death came upon all. So death wasn't there until one man fell. Does that mean there wasn't leaves falling to the ground in the Garden of Eden, or that plants died or animals died of old age or whatever in the Garden of Eden? That I couldn't tell you. But I know that death itself did not exist in the Garden of Eden until Adam fell. So at the same moment, you could say hell is not mentioned or said or anything, but in the same way that death was not affecting anything, neither was hell. Neither was there any need for judgment. So hell did not exist. There was no point in being there. But yet later on in the Bible, we read that God created hell for just the devil and his angels, for the fallen angels. That's what he created it for. But you'll find in Deuteronomy, it says that they will be found at the bottom, the furthest bottom of hell. So bottom, if hell has a bottom, hell has a top, hell has a middle section. Hell is more than one thing. It has several sections in it, and even the Bible talks about that. So let's deal with hell first, and then Hades. Hades, Gehenna, the place of the dead, are all places and names used in the Bible, New Testament and Old Testament. And all of these people have human beings or angels, captive there. But if you'll go with me, we'll go there in a minute. But if you'll go into where we're going to go and see in the New Testament and in Revelation that there really are no people in hell yet. Now, there's a little bit of an argument about that, just because of the translation, but really, honestly, truly, there is no one in hell yet. Why? Because hell is permanent. You can't come out. Hell is final. Hell is complete. Hell is for eternity. Whereas Gehenna, Hades, and the place of the dead is a temporary, and you'll even see it in the Amplified and in the Greek, that when Jesus said Hades, he was talking about the place of the dead, a holding area. So, a holding area for what? Well, they're holding for the great white throne. And the great white throne judgment, which is in Revelation 20, and we're going to look at that, is where everyone is waiting to be judged. Now, at that time, it says, if they are not found. So we're going to understand that I haven't even brought up the lake of fire yet, because the lake of fire is a part of the whole thing that nobody really understands the lake of fire. As a matter of fact, one person says, lake of fire really isn't even on earth. Now, hell is on earth and Hades is on earth. Those are all things here. This is an embodiment prison, whereas the lake of fire is an eternal thing. Now, it can't be on earth because earth is burned up, remember? Okay, so the lake of fire is completely different. And it says, well, let's go there. I think we might as well. Well, nah, I still want to relax with you for a minute. There is so much going on. People are so wondering, and please don't tell somebody to go to hell. Don't tell somebody they deserve this or they deserve that. The Lord came to me. I shouldn't say the Lord. My spirit spoke up to me in my conscience when I said that. I said, boy, if anybody deserves to burn in hell, they do. And my spirit, which is separate from me, spoke up to me and said, okay, let's say that they've been burning in hell for about 1,000,000 years now, just screaming and writhing for about 1,000,000 years. Do you think they've paid the price for their terrible attitude? I'm like, oh, yeah, they have. I should let them out, huh? Yeah, you could let them out now. They've learned their lesson. He goes, and the spirit said, nope, can't do it. Once they're there, they can never come out. This is why I know that, in my humble personal opinion, very few people have actually visited hell and seen hell. What they have seen is Hades, the place of the dead, the holding area, things like that. Because hell is completely different. There is no getting out. As a matter of fact, the only testimony I personally have heard about hell was from Benny Hinn and his vision, what he saw. Now that I trust in, not just because it was him or it was the the late 80s when he said it, but because of what he said and what he saw, which I'll share with you. Whew. See, maybe helping you understand the purpose of things would help you understand the order that they're in. Prison and punishment is an applied act of man to control man. And when you get out of prison, when you get out, done with your punishment, you should be a new person. You should have learned your lesson and you live a better life. That's part of what punishment is. It's not punishing, it's punishment. A definite crime gets a definite punishment. A definite break of the law gets a definite pay for that break. And when that payment is over, you are released back into society for your own good and for the good of the society for the future. And you've learned your lesson. Now, the reason that hell and Hades don't mix is because you can't get back out of hell. And as you can see in the Bible, these people in Hades, which had two sides in it before Christ, were waiting in a holding area for the change in the world's history. So when Jesus died, that ended the need for Hades and hell to stay together. And I mean, for Hades to have two sections, because Jesus went and preached in Hades to the souls of the saints that were waiting there, and he raised them up. And you'll even see in the New Testament in Revelation that at the marriage supper of the Lamb, people that were in Hades are already there. Even though the rapture of the church happens, the Christians show up, but they're already there. Well, why? Because they went there when Jesus returned to heaven after the resurrection and from the dead. So he took them with him then. Now, trying to grasp that. If it's you have to come out of Hades. Hades is just a holding, a place of the dead until judgment. And so therefore it is not hell. Hell is you cannot exit. everyone in Hades, and even remember that hell is complete, utter darkness and torment. So that means there isn't the. Remember when Jesus went and there was a gap, and Lazarus was and down to the people that were in Hades to preach them and bring them out. That's where the story happened, where Lazarus was on the good side and the rich man was on the bad side. And the rich man said, Father Abraham, send Lazarus over here to touch my tongue and quench this thirst and this torment. You couldn't have a conversation like that in hell, because hell is so overwhelming and so permanent and so completely um, tormenting. There is no time for conversation. There's no time for thought. And it would spill over onto the good side. See, the Hades is a controlled area. It says there was a gap, an uncrossable chasm between the Hades, where the souls that waited for Christ were, and the Hades, where the demons and the controlled angels and the bound angels and the men from the Old Testament were. So that's a controlled environment waiting for something. And you come out of that, because now, let me get my last sip of hot here. Get my study board down. All right, so we're gonna go. I've got my little bookmarks here. I think I'll tell you the end really quick. I like telling the end really quick because some people, they want to know what the end is, and then they can better understand the steps to get there. So here we are, Revelation 20. There's the old pen and the marker. All right. I saw the dead. This is verse 12 of 20. The dead, great and small, that means important and unimportant, stood before the throne, and the books were opened. Then another book was opened, which was called the Book of Life. And the dead were judged, sentenced by what was done in their lives, the way they felt, how they acted, and what they did, in accordance with what was written in these books. The sea delivered up its dead, and so did death and Hades, a state of death or disembodied existence. They surrendered the dead in them, and all were tried, and their cases determined by what they had done according to their motives and aims and works. Then death and Hades, the state of death or disembodied existence, were thrown into the lake of fire. This is the second death. There's the lake of fire. So, this can't be, Hades can't be hell, because it's being thrown into a lake of fire, which is hell. And anyone's name that was not found or recorded in the book of life, he was hurled into the lake of fire. So this is the location of hell. This is what hell is all about. Now, if we back up a little bit, okay, I'm going to find that real quick while we're talking here, because I'm going to go back to Job. And in Job, let's see where you are. Oh, yeah, I've got my marker here. Oh, here it is, Joel 26. Sheol, the place of the dead, is naked before God, and Abaddon, the place of destruction, has no covering over it, or no covering from his eyes. Then in Deuteronomy 32, I think it was 26. No, 22, 32 was it? No. Oh goodness, I should have marked it with a pen. What the actual scripture was in Deuteronomy 32 was.
While
It's
you're
such
looking,
a long. While you're looking,
I'll just say hello to Fordman, Charlene, Lisa. While you're looking,
okay.
Darcy, Spaceman, Carrie, and Bill.
All right. Okay, so it's a 32:22. For the fire is kindled by my anger, and it burns to the depths of Sheol, devouring the earth with its increase, and sets on fire the foundations of the mountains. That lets you know the location. It's under the mountains. It's in the earth's crust. That's why they say that Sheol and Hades is on the earth, but the lake of fire is not. All right. Back to, you can find a lot of this yourself. It's very easy to find. Okay, Revelations 20:13. All right, 20:13. Where I was reading. The sea delivered up its dead, and all that were in it, death and Hades, were surrendering their dead with that was within them, and all were tried and their case determined. Now, this is where you can separate, and you can be confident that you can separate Hades from hell, because this is where everyone that's been in Hades, everybody that's been waiting for judgment, is resurrected for the great white throne judgment. And you notice here, you can even go and see something and see another proof here in Romans chapter 1, which I just noticed when I was reading this. That's in Romans chapter 1. In Romans chapter 1, it says that if you know the Bible, and if you're a Christian, you will be judged by the Bible and as a Christian. And it says if you don't know the Bible, then you will be judged according to your conscience and to your works. Isn't that interesting? So you have Romans chapter 1 agreeing with this, because what does it say? It says here in verse 12 that they were the dead being judged and sentenced by what they had done, the whole way of feeling and acting and their aims. Now, I've always asked myself, why would God take the time to judge these people? What is the point of judging them if they aren't born again and they've been dead all of this time, waiting for this resurrection just to be judged and thrown into hell? What is the purpose for that? It's to show the justice of God. It's to show the justice of God, because there's several places in the Bible where I think even Paul said things like, may he be judged honorable and upright and respected. It was just telling me that, there are some people that it says here, if you are not recorded in the book of life, you're hurled into the lake of fire. Well, I've got good news for you. Everyone that existed, everyone that has ever been born has been written into the book of life, because they got what? Life. They got life. So they were written into the book of life. You can ask Kenneth Hagin if that's true. He's got a teaching on that. And you see, the only thing you can be done is blotted out. And Jesus said, be glad your names are written down in the book of life. When they came back when the 70 came back and said they'd been, even the demons were subject to them. And he said, don't be excited that the demons were subject to you. Be excited that your names are written in the book of life. So the book of life is not a born again, just a born again book. Because see, all the born again people go to the judgment seat of Christ. Only the people that that didn't know Christ come to the great white throne judgment. So now they're at the great white throne judgment. If they didn't know a preacher, if they didn't know the gospel, if they lived a moral life, because it takes a lot. There are areas in the Revelation in the Bible where it says, you can be blotted out of the book of life. Nobody's going to accidentally spill the ink over your name. Hey, that was an accident. Oh, sorry. But you can be blotted out by your own actions. So what if the person was really good? What if a person didn't hear the gospel? What if the Bible never reached them and the gospel never reached them and they lived a good life and they followed all of these rules and they did all these things and they didn't do anything that caused them to be, blotted out of the book of life? They have a chance. I don't know what kind of chance, but I know that God's doing everything he can for relationship and to get people into heaven, not to keep them out. God is not setting up everything so that he's got a big old stick and going to whack you when you try to come in the door. He is doing everything to get people in. So I just want to encourage you that, you've really got to screw up to miss heaven. You really got to point your finger into God's face, into Jesus' face, and say, I don't want you, to have an absolute for sure ticket to hell. Because God will guard your right to go to hell as much as he will guard your right to receive heaven. Because Jesus did not come here to make you a Christian. He came here to give you the option to choose Christianity, to choose to have your sins forgiven, to choose Christ to come and live in your heart. You can make that choice right now. And you can just say right out loud, I choose Christ to live in my heart. I choose Christ to forgive my sins. I ask you, Jesus, to forgive my sins. Come into my heart. I choose that. I want that. And I will live according to that choice the rest of my life. I love you, Lord. Amen. No, that's an entrance into the kingdom of God. And the opposite is, pointing your finger in God's face. I don't want you. I want to do things. I've heard many stories of people that are in hell or not in hell, but in Hades, and they're going to hell because that's their choice. And a lot of stories about hell are really about Hades, not hell, because there is no ending. There is no coming back to be judged at the white throne if you're in hell. It's just not going to happen. It's against the law, because once you've been judged, your sentence is final, which is good for us because that means our sentence to the good is final. But the sentence to the bad is also final. And you see, because there is another judgment coming for everyone that's dead, that means their judgment for the death they're in right now is not final. The final one is coming. Now, onward to hell a little bit. I want to share something with you concerning hell. Oh, it's going to take a sip of this first. I've looked at the tense of the words in the Greek, and I've studied it out, and I am personally, convinced that there is a difference between punishing and punishment. And I've been asking the Lord, and I feel like he has shown me an answer. I said, God, it's not like you to torture someone, and how could you stand that, being God, hearing the screams and all of these things for eternity? How could you stand that, And of course, part of the uh, judgment of hell is complete separation from God. So he won't hear any to point of, oh Lord, hear my prayer. And that's not happening anymore. That's over. There's no hearing prayers when you're in hell. Right now, everyone within the Son of everyone has an opportunity. Hell. But I'd like to give you of what hell is and why it's there. You see, if you go, well, I guess you don't really need to go there. In Ezekiel 14, it says, this is when it talks about the king of Tyre. It's talking about the devil. It's talking about, I will lift myself up. I will make myself as the Most High. But the thing that caught my mind, and I saw with my eye, was it says, everywhere that I can find judgment, it's talking about, he said in his heart. He considered in his mind. The devil hadn't even spoke out loud. He was just considering it in thoughts. Now you also take the fact that God thought creation, but spoke light. So God thought creation, and it came, all the molecules and everything came into being, but he spoke creation being formed. Let there be light, there be animals, trees, the earth, things like that had to be spoken. So if you take that same idea, thought creates. And in many places in the New Testament, it talks about thinking. Think on these things, that which is good, that which is acceptable, that which is pleasing to God. If you look at the gifts of the Spirit compared to the gifts of the flesh, or not the gifts of the flesh, but the works of the flesh, you know, the gifts of the Spirit, love, joy, peace, patience, meekness, kindness, goodness, you know, temperance. These are all things that we are to look at and focus on. And if you look in Hebrews 11, it talks about that Christ cleansed our conscience, not just our bodies. Because greater than Melchizedek has come, so therefore greater than just the cleansing of the temple has come. Because Jesus cleansed the temple, he cleaned up heaven, he opened everything back up to relationship with God. Do you really think that God is going to allow any evil thoughts back in heaven? Everything evil, everything bad that was in heaven was cast out and down here to the second and the first heaven. Everything. Heaven is now pure. Heaven is now clean, and God only has one son, so he's not going to let anything, any thought, I will lift myself up, which is pride, back in heaven. He's not going to let any of that stuff in. So if you don't have to speak it, if you just have to think evil to bring it to pass, to be judged for it, how do you stop someone from creating evil with thought? You will find that people will think it, then say it, then do it. Those three things always come in the same order. And so you have to say to yourself, well, okay, so if the devil was thinking about taking over heaven, and God cast him out just when he was thinking the thought and considered in his heart, then is God going to allow any thinking or any considering in the heart that's evil back into heaven? Nope, he's not. You know, and this is the part about, you know, saving our own, you know, working out our salvation and our souls. Ever since God showed me this, I have been about what I think. One of our favorite prayers now before going online and on the road, and whenever, you know, any of my past thoughts try to come back to me, is let the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable in your sight always, Lord. You know, cleanse my heart and mind. I am not the old man. I am a new man, created through God, casting down imaginations, any high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God. That's 1 Corinthians 10. And bringing captive every thought to the obedience of Jesus Christ. Why not every word? There are other places that talk about guarding your words, watching your words, don't speak these words. But in this scripture, it says taking thoughts captive. You can't have those kind of thoughts in heaven. So where do these thoughts go? Thoughts do. And I've even said to myself, I like thinking that thought. And immediately something said in my head, well, that thought's going to heaven, going to hell. If you want to continue thinking that thought, you go with it. That's what crossed my mind. Now, I'm not going to say that's all biblical. I'm not going to say that wasn't a good teaching, just for me personally. But wow, what a statement. That thought's not going to heaven. That thought's going to hell. And if you insist on thinking that way, you have to go with it. Wow. But that brought me to the revelation understanding of what hell is and why it's different from Hades, the place of the dead. The place of the dead, you've heard people have, yeah, I saw hell. I went to hell. There's 1,000 Christians down there, screaming, don't come here. I've seen family members. I've seen this. I've seen that. That's not hell. That's Hades. Guaranteed that's not hell. That's Hades. Because in hell, there is no speaking. There is no groups of people. There are no individual people speaking louder than other people. Hell is a complete, dark, separation, on fire place, existence. Now, why? Why would God create such a place like that? Why, why would he do that? What is that necessary? Oh, if God is a loving God, he wouldn't have a hell. If God is a loving God, he wouldn't let all these things. Loving God, he wouldn't send me to hell. Well, God doesn't send people to hell. They insist. They invite it. They want to go because they don't want anything to do with God. I'll tell you, I've been revving you up. You ready? Okay. Hell is the place that controls thought. A month ago, just after I started taking more health stuff and things like that, I ate some cheap pastries and cookies. They must have been made from some awful flour or whatever. I don't know what happened. But that night, I had the worst leg cramps I think I've ever had. And what made them so bad was they were in the front of my right leg and in the back. And you can always stretch the cramp, stretch it. Don't let it get the best of you, stretch it. But unfortunately, when you stretch the front one, the back one gets worse. So all I could do was hold on to the sink and stand straight up. And, like that scripture says, having done all to stand, all I could do was teeth and just pray and for the release from that. During that time, did I have a chance to think about sin? Did I have a chance to think about rebelling against God? Did I have a chance to think about what bills I owed or what work I had to do or were the dishes done? Did I have a chance to think about all that? Did that even cross my mind? Nope. You see, this is what hell is for. Hell is the final resting place, the capture of every evil thought. There is no thinking evil thoughts ever again because you're so completely consumed. And I'll get back to the testimony of Benny Hinn, of him. He said back in, I think it was 1988, he said he got a glimpse of someone in hell. He
See
said
if you're still online because I said you're buffering.
Oh.
Make sure that your computer is still connected.
Live. It says live.
On the Wi-Fi. Make sure the Wi-Fi is still connected.
Having a little bit of work, a little trouble with the Prince and Power of the Air here. And connection is secure. So Maybe we should take a few things off the net or something. We got too many things on or something.
Okay.
I don't see where my phone is. I had my phone with me, but I don't see it now. All right, so sorry about that. Hopefully the buffering did not interrupt the sentence and finish it without you hearing the whole thing.
We'll
But
say it again.
this is the point is that God's not going to allow any thought into heaven that's evil. How does he control evil thoughts? The point of hell is that with the Benny Hinn, the preacher said, Benny Hinn said, it was the shape of a person, completely inflamed, their eyes in their mouth, everywhere, completely on flame, just waving their arms, kicking their legs in like a weightless state of absolute torment. And I've always asked God, what was the point of that? Well, now I know, and I'm sharing my thoughts, my opinion, based on what I've learned with you. And that is, that person has no ability to create. You see, you can't kill an eternal being. You can't kill an angel. You can't kill a thinking, given life being, created being like God has made. You could almost say that started my journey when I thought, how do you kill an eternal being? They can be anywhere at any time. Well, you have to capture them like God captured the devil here in time and on earth, and then throw that whole capsule that he's captured into the lake of fire. And you see, anybody that wants to, they go to. They insist they don't want to have anything to do with it, because if it's proven in the Bible that thinking creates, then God has to control the thinking so that they can't think to create. And there's only one way to do that: extreme, total pain, interrupting every thought. That's what I believe it's for. Hell is to stop any evil thought. You can't. No matter how evil a person is, if they're burning and squalling and tortured, they do not have time to think evil. And I guess you could say my opinion is you can't kill an eternal being. You can only control them. If this eternal being has the ability in its thinking to create, then you've got to control those thoughts. And the only way to control those thoughts is with an environment that lets them think of nothing but the environment they're in, the moment they're in, the absolute torture that they're in. Now, some people also believe, and I can agree with that thought, that there is a non-existence, doctrine where, maybe God makes it to the point they don't exist. But isn't absolute separation from God non-existence? So you never know. I mean, are they really going to, the Bible says the smoke goes up for eternity, well, that's what it says. So that's what we go with. And, the fact that it says that anyone that's not in the book of life is hurled into the lake of fire says that even though God only made hell for the devil and his angels, there are people going. Because, you see, we have the ability, you don't understand. I mean, well, most people do, but most people don't understand that when we're thinking something, when we're imagining something, we are bringing it to pass. And once we've imagined it and we thought it, then we begin to speak it, and the world and, our works and our hands and our thoughts and our eyes and our ears and our family and everybody, brings it to pass. That works for evil too. How do you stop that? How would you control that? Doesn't it make sense that the lake of fire and hell is to control thought? so that evil has no chance to think, not a second, not an instant to think of anything evil and try to create something. Anyway, I'm going to leave that cage door closed now at that. And that's so, I don't know, I've got to, let me get that. So if there are any prayer requests, anything like that, any questions you have about the difference between hell and Hades, I also want you to notice that the people that are in Hades, are alive, they're speaking, they recognize the conditions that they're in, but yet, they're not like gasping for air, and they're not starving and hungry or anything like that. It's like a disembodied existence. Their flesh, has died and rotted away just like everyone else. And so when they are resurrected, that's when they receive this body that goes into hell and for eternity, and their soul. So keep that in mind as well. And Smoky Mountain Dreamer says she's feeling better today. Well, that's good. I hope my Joy did wonderful things to pray for you. All right. So, was there anything else I wanted to share on this? Oh, I would. Just a couple facts. That hell is mentioned 27 times in the Bible, and that hell
Kentucky,
that death already existed.
Kentucky Girl asked if you could briefly recap because she missed the beginning.
Briefly recap. Well, everybody. All right. All right. Well, Genesis 1:1 in the beginning.
Just kind of the.
All right. So the recap is hell wasn't even mentioned until Deuteronomy. And Deuteronomy 32:22. And God, in the same way that, but God created hell for the devil and his angels, not for us. Then in Job talks about that hell. There are two different places. That there's Hades, the bad side, and Hades, the good side. And the good side is where people like Moses and Elijah and all of the prophets and people of old and renown are waiting. Were waiting until the death of Christ in that place. Now, when Christ died, he went and preached to the souls in Hades, which it says, in the Bible, it says hell quite a few places. And that's one of the recap things, is that a lot of places, because hell is a more powerful word and is more pungent, hell was the word chosen to affect people's thinking, even though the word actually was translated Hades, the place of the dead, the holding place of the dead. So Hades is the holding place of the dead because they have not had their final judgment at the white throne judgment yet. Second of all, Hades and hell are different because Hades is temporary. You were able to see Hades from the good side of Hades. You were able to, someone from Hades could speak to Abraham and say, Abraham, send Lazarus over. Hades was a place of the dead where they wait for judgment. So hell is a final judgment. Hell is a continual, eternal, you cannot get out judgment. Well, everybody in Hades is getting out because they're getting out to be judged at the last day at the white throne. So you can't get out of hell, but you can get out of Hades. And Jesus did that because he went and preached to them. And the spirits, remember it says he went to preach to the spirits in the place of the dead. And then after he was resurrected, so were people from Hades resurrected to walk the streets of Jerusalem and testify of the Lord. And so, because it was also now, another thing is that hell is a lake of fire. whereas the region Hades is the region of the dead. And Job says that it was beneath the mountains, that hell is a burning, and it dwells in Job 26, 22, I forget. 26:6 talks about this fire is beneath the mountains. So it's on earth, and it is down in the earth's crust. And it's called the region of the dead and the realm of the dead. That is a place. That is a place here on earth. Whereas the lake of fire isn't on earth, because the lake of fire continues forever and ever, but there's a new heaven and a new earth. So how does it continue forever and ever if it's a new heaven and a new earth? Unless, of course, there is a final non-existence, And you might ask yourself, what does God do? Well, when he wipes our tears away, it says that when we are in heaven, and everything is over and we're finally in heaven, it says that he wipes our tears away, and we never cry again. We're never sorrowful again. We're never in, and how's that possible? Because if it was possible, we'd remember people that weren't there and be sorrowful. And we would cry and say, oh, that person didn't make it. Oh, they didn't make it. But you see, God wipes our memory of all of those things. So then that wraps that part up. And then also the true, my study has brought me to the place by I did a study on thought. And I don't know if I did it with you yet or not. If I haven't, I'll be teaching that in the next week or two. Teaching on thoughts. And I will end that teaching on thoughts with this same wind-up message, that judgment was made on thoughts. You'll be surprised how many times you'll see in Ezekiel and in the Bible where it says, he considered within himself. He said to himself, and was judged by that. The devil was judged before he even said a word. It said, I will say to myself. He said to himself, considered within his heart, I will lift myself up. That means he didn't say it out loud. So I did a whole study on who thought things and who said things and the difference. And it was amazing how many places I found that Satan and other main characters in the Bible that were judged said within their heart. They were judged for what they thought, because we, as created eternal human beings, cannot be killed. Angels are eternal beings. They cannot be killed. How do you kill them? Well, you can't kill them. You can only capture them. You make a place called time, and then you make this place a place where they can have their own kingdom, and their pride wants to be there, and they come into time to be a part of time, and then the ones that don't get cast into time, and then the time itself is thrown into lake of fire, because the point is God is controlling something, and what it is creative thought. Now, hell is different from Hades and the place of the dead, because Hades and place of the dead, there's conversations, there's opinions, there's people, there's judgments. I don't think no one has really seen hell the way they have seen Hades, because in Hades you will see people, you will have conversations. They'll say, don't come here, but you see, that's not hell, because hell is the final judgment. There is no getting out, and that person is strictly writhing in pain, fire from head to toe, mouth and eyes, and can't think of anything except how much pain they're in. That is the only way to control their evil thoughts, is to keep them so busy they don't have time to think of them. So that was my wrap up on that. All right, so
Pastor Scott came in, Kicking It Country Blogs, and said, great job, Donnie. Been listening, just been too busy to chat.
Oh, well, good. Great.
And
thank you,
Smoky
Pastor
Mountain
Scott.
Dreamer, which is Deb, she said she subscribed. She just subscribed.
Oh, well, I appreciate that.
Kentucky Girl said, interesting topic.
It's interesting. I want to see what's going to happen.
And Darcy had shared in the comments about my Alabama farm life. Our friend Kathy, that we met her in Pryor, Oklahoma at the meetup, and she's our friend. She's doing a little Bible study every day. Well, it's not really a study; it's just reading the Bible
in a year. Yeah.
In a year. And so I went and found her link and posted that. Darcy's been watching it and enjoying it.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's I know a lot of people that are very wise, very level-headed, are the ones that read the entire Bible every year. It just allows you to take the whole thing and balance it out, and you don't freak out in this spot, and you don't get too bored in this spot. You kind of put it all together into such a nice level spot. And me personally, I'm a subject person. When a subject comes to mind, I just absolutely tear it to pieces until I understand it completely. And that's kind of like what I like to do. I have a chapter. I think everybody has a chapter. My chapter is Colossians chapter 2. That's my chapter. I read it, I study it, I listen to it every day on recordings, and I do things with it with understanding, because there is so much in there. Colossians chapter 2 has the courts of heaven. Colossians chapter 2 has judgment. Colossians chapter 2 has so many things in it that's perfect for my personality. And it's interesting too that my older brother, who's 18 months older than I am, his favorite book, he told me, that he was in a lot was Colossians chapter 3. So that would make us probably work pretty good together. One day we'll do that. All right, so that's good for that. Where am I at? Oh, it's 9:59. Tick, 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 tick.
And thanks to Kenny and Scott and Spaceman, who were whack-a-trolling tonight.
Whack-a-trolling. I've got a list of people that I wanted to give that painting away to. And I think we were supposed to do a spin a wheel or draw a rabbit out of a hat or something like that. I didn't get to it. So we'll move on with that one. And I did touch up the painting, though. It does look better than last week. I'm going for the big guy, right? The bigger one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want me to show the other one?
Yeah. Well, I can. Well, you can grab
I'll get it.
So I just want to show you that real quick as we close it up here. And thank you, Lord.
We'll put everybody's names in that was here last week and this week, and he'll have a drawing.
That's what I'll do.
Yeah, he'll have a drawing on
we'll
that.
make it
Maybe we'll just
tours.
post the drawing on the channel or something. It's a little video.
All right. So here is your painting. Got the snowman right there with his arms raised, looking at that star. Yeah. Well, we hope you enjoy that. And I found a bubble wrap package this week to put it in, so I'm ready to ship it. Have a good day.
He's gonna ship it to the
winner
US.
next week. Yep.
Oh, and here's the other one. The one for Joy Bless Life channel. Did that one.
Do that one.
That's going to be a giveaway on there, but he might touch it up a little bit.
Yeah, I got to do something
here.
with these trees right here. They look a little busy. They don't look real.
It's not quite done with that one.
Yeah, we're working on that one. We'll tweak it a little more, but that's what's fun. You can always paint over. Keep that in mind. We can paint over, but God strips us down to the original color on Judgment Day. So that's what we want. Clean thoughts, clean mind, clean conscience, and clean thinking. And remember, let the words of your mouth and the meditation of your heart be acceptable in His sight always.
Okay, hold on.
And 1 Corinthians 10, casting down imaginations, those are thoughts, and any high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, and bring captive every thought to the obedience of Jesus Christ.
Kicking It Country Blog said,
Kicking it.
Y'all be careful headed to Charlotte tomorrow. Praying for you all, and that
it's looking good.
We still, the flight could get canceled. They won't know until tomorrow.
We won't know until tomorrow morning.
If the flight would be canceled,
Because
Um,
his flight's on Monday, and the weather's looking better for Monday.
so we'll see for that. Rayleigh Creative Travel, Blaine said, awesome painting, been listening, great topic, and one that should be talked about more, behind the pulpits.
Oh, good. Yes, you're right. Yeah, there's a few online. Not a lot, though.
Hello to The Adventure Begins that came in. Let's see. Oh, Kicking It Country Vlog said, that's awesome, Donnie. Y'all got my address. Just mail it on over. Painting.
You know,
Oh.
some people deserve a painting just for their sense of humor.
Charlene Kane's mom said, beautiful painting.
It's fun. It's
Kentucky
fun.
Girl said, looks like the channel is growing.
And look at Storyteller Donnie Wheeler. You'll see a couple other videos of other paintings I've done. I even did a 20-foot mural that's on there, so you can take and enjoy that. When I tell you, that husky sure wants out. She's been just a whining and a whining. So we're gonna get her out. And love you all so
Lisa
much.
said, love, love, love to you both.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And pray for work.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I need to.
He's been out of
I've
work
been out of work
for
this week.
all week. He
It was
doesn't
just
really.
too cold to paint and too much going on at the job, and I'm not sure exactly if I'm invited back or not. So I'm clear in my conscience as far as the job goes itself, and I detailed everything, so I know it's good, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, got a couple estimates, one estimate to do, and a chance to paint some more. So I'm going to do some more paintings, and I'm enjoying the time off that way. All right, is that about it?
Mama Paris said, be careful out there. She's in Virginia, which is but near North Carolina. She's expecting lots of snow and ice. Hope you have a great trip, Kenny. She's hoping you have a great trip.
Yeah, Asheville's expecting 8 inches. Asheville, North Carolina.
Which isn't normal for Asheville.
You know, and Asheville is right across from Charlotte, so we'll see.
Asheville is known for mild winters, but they're getting a lot of snow right now.
Yep.
Yes, Charlene Kane, the dogs are fine. Here's one right here.
Yep, everybody's right here.
And
they are so happy
here's
to be
the other
out
one
here.
right here. And then the husky's just whining because she wants to go outside.
Yep, she's been.
That's all. She's just been whining because she wants to go outside.
She gets her 10 o'clock walk every night, and she knows it's time to walk, and so she's ready to go.
She's in the crate right here in front of us, and she's ready to go outside.
Quite ready to take her. Boy, yeah, that's better. That's the way I should do my teaching.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. God bless you. I love you so much, and appreciate your time, appreciate your life, and appreciate your prayers. Have a good night.
Lisa said, my brother's getting 8 inches in North Carolina.